Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a jacket. A worn, patchy, maybe coffee-stained jacket that once belonged to a man whose laugh could shake the walls and whose sadness could silence a room. You're walking beside Robin Williams, not on stage or in a movie scene, but through the quiet corners of his life, one pocket at a time. It's the 1950s, and you're in a grand old house in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. The air smells like polished wood, overwatered ferns, and whatever perfume the housekeeper liked that week. Robin's home isn't noisy, it's eerily quiet, filled with long silences and separate rooms. His father is a Ford executive, always flying off to some place that sounds like an airport code. His mother, Lori, is charming and sharp, but more suited for cocktail parties than bedtime stories. You, little Robin, learn to tiptoe and listen. You learn to talk through characters. It's how you make grown-ups stay in the room. And when you're not performing for your parents' friends, you're building private kingdoms. Behind the basement furnace, you stage full battles with green plastic soldiers and elaborate backstories. In the yard, you narrate space missions to no one, just the squirrels and the breeze. Inside the pockets of your corduroy pants, a rock shaped like a heart, a rubber band ball that bounces too high, and a rogue chess pawn that somehow feels like a lucky charm. You don't tell anyone about the pawn, not because it's a secret, but because no one asks. By age 8, you've started collecting voices, not impressions, not yet, but tones. How your teacher says detention like it's a dare, how your mom's friends fake laugh at things they don't understand. You store these in your head like audio clips, and sometimes you write them down on napkins, gum wrappers, the backs of cereal boxes. You fold the notes into tiny squares and hide them. Some end up in your dresser, some in your socks. A few end up in your jacket pockets, where they'll stay for months until you rediscover them and laugh again, alone, like you're meeting yourself in the past. At school, you're polite, not loud. You're not the class clown, yet. You're the class curator. You observe. You learn when laughter lands and when it wounds. You watch other kids perform humor like armor. You learn it's more useful than any textbook, more thrilling than dodgeball. You never tell anyone how often you talk to yourself. In different voices, in accents, it's your way of keeping the silence company. And you're already clever enough to know that it's not something every kid does. But you don't care. At night, tucked under your covers, you whisper dialogue for characters who only exist for an audience of one. You play both sides, a pirate and a parrot, a detective and the nervous maid, a boy with a lonely heart and a chess pawn who talks back. One evening, while sneaking back downstairs for a snack, you hear your parents laughing in the parlor, really laughing, and then you realize it's something you said earlier that afternoon, a joke you tossed off while they were on the phone. They hadn't laughed then, but now they are, hours later, like you planted something that bloomed late. And in that moment, you decide, I want to do that forever. It's your first taste of time-delayed magic, and it sticks with you, like the chewing gum in your back pocket you forgot was there until your pants stuck to the washing machine. Later that week, you bring a joke book to school and try it out on your classmates. It flops. They don't get the references. They don't know who Bob Hope is. You try again with something sillier, a voice, a pratfall, a burp timed like a punchline. It lands. The room cracks open with joy. You learn something important. Delivery matters. But being unexpected, that's gold. You start keeping a running list in your pockets. Notebooks don't feel right. They're too serious, too Dear Diary. So you use scraps, receipts from your dad's briefcase, candy wrappers, old grocery lists with your own edits, eggs, milk, dynamite. When you're bored in math class, you draw comics in the margins and fold them into your sleeves like love notes to yourself. Your teachers think you're distracted, but really, you're just working on your timing. One day, at a school talent show, they give you 5 minutes. You have nothing formal, just a paper bag full of voices, a borrowed puppet, and a few accents you've stitched together from television. You kill. Parents laugh until they cry. Other kids look at you like you just turned water into Fruit Loops. The high you get from that, you'll chase it forever. Biographers still wonder whether this moment was a fluke or a prophecy. Whether Robin Williams knew at age 12 that his life would become a strange blend of characters, costumes, and barely controlled chaos. They argue over when the persona started, when the line blurred between the boy and the performances. But you, walking beside him in this dream, you know better. It started in the quiet, in the echo of rooms too big for a small voice. It started in the spaces between love and attention, and tucked deep in the inside pocket of that oversized corduroy coat he wore to school, wedged between a lint-covered gumdrop and a bus pass, was a folded, yellowing joke. Two men walk into a bar and forget why they came. He'd written it himself. At 11. You smile, because somehow you already know he never threw it away. You're standing just outside a grand brick building with ivy trailing up its walls, like gossip looking for a window. Welcome to Detroit Country Day School, prestigious, polished, and just a little bit too quiet for someone like you. Robin's about to walk in, his blazer buttoned, hair brushed to near perfection, and that look on his face like he's about to ask a question he won't actually say out loud. You follow close behind, stepping into marble hallways and the scent of floor polish and old paper. It's the early 1960s now. Robin is that kid, smart, polite, deeply well-behaved, and entirely forgettable if you weren't paying attention. But oh, if you were. Because something inside him crackled like a live wire just waiting for an excuse, and you could feel it most when he was alone. That's when he'd mutter entire conversations to himself in character, each voice distinct, each punchline practiced. You get the sense that the teachers never quite caught on to how deeply weird, in the best possible way, this quiet boy really was. At this age, Robin isn't the life of the party yet. He's the boy at the edge of the room, chuckling to himself at a joke no one else heard. Not lonely, just tuned to a different station. He's still carrying things around in his jacket pockets, and by now they've become a little world of their own. There's always a pen, sometimes working, sometimes not, a tiny notepad so scribbled over you can't read the original lines anymore, and a paperclip he never throws away. He doesn't know why. He just likes the way it feels in his fingers, like a secret anchor. In his left pocket today, a crumpled photo from Mad Magazine, folded so many times the ink is wearing off. He's studied every inch of that satire like it's scripture. You sit next to him in Latin class. He doodles a gladiator beheading a test answer sheet in the corner of his notes. When the teacher turns around, he whispers, in a perfect British accent, "Et tu, Brute?" Or just me flunking again. You try not to laugh out loud. He's testing boundaries now, gently, but with more precision than people realize. He doesn't act out, but he will toss a wild comment into a quiet room just to see who notices. And when someone does laugh, oh, the glow on his face, like a sunflower finally getting sun. At lunch, he never just eats, he performs, silently. He mimes eating a salad as if it's a battle between fork and lettuce. Or he'll animate a salt shaker into a shy Victorian lady. It doesn't matter if anyone's watching. He's creating these tiny, perfect scenes just for himself. That's what makes it magical. You're not watching someone show off. You're watching someone play. And it's contagious. Even the strictest teachers start giving him a little more leeway. Even the headmaster, who wears seriousness like a wool coat in July, occasionally cracks a grin when Robin starts speaking fluent Shakespearean nonsense in morning assembly. But here's the thing. He's also starting to feel the pull of sadness. He doesn't have a name for it yet, just a heaviness in his chest on certain cloudy days, a silence that doesn't feel chosen. Sometimes he digs into his jacket pocket, hoping to find a forgotten joke, but finds lint instead. It's the first time he realizes that laughter, while powerful, is not always within reach. That's when the voices help. They fill the void. They keep the sadness moving, never letting it sit too long. One day, he sees a janitor crying in the hallway. No one else stops. Robin does. He offers a tissue, one he'd been using as a prop in his pocket for a clown bit he never got to perform. The janitor takes it, chuckles, and thanks him. He'll remember that for the rest of his life. That moment, comedy as kindness. Not a stage, not a spotlight, just a gesture, a human one. Biographers still argue about this phase. Some say it was his most formative period. Others think it was just the quiet before the real storm of Robin's genius. But you can feel it, walking beside him. You can see how the silence, the order, the expectations, all made him sharper, made him watch more closely, made him a master of moments. Because he had to wait for his. You join him one afternoon in the school library. He's flipping through The Catcher in the Rye with one hand and sketching with the other. It's a drawing of a man slipping on a banana peel into the arms of Marilyn Monroe. He chuckles. You peek into his jacket pocket and see a tiny folded comic strip he clipped from the Sunday paper 3 months ago. It's yellowed now, a little torn, but he still reads it sometimes like it's new. The librarian catches him talking to himself again. "Robin, quiet down," he replies. "That wasn't me. That was Sir Lord Elton of the Reading Realm." You both get kicked out. Worth it. And still, no one knows he's going to be famous. Not yet. They see him as bright, a little odd, maybe dramatic, but destined? Not quite. He hasn't even stepped on a real stage yet, but you and I, we can feel the drumbeat beginning. In the way he experiments with silence, in the way he notices people's tells, in the way he stores jokes like emergency matches, just in case someone needs a light. And there, nestled beside a pencil stub and a button he swears has no origin, is a note he wrote to himself. Remember to breathe, and if all else fails, burp in French. That jacket pocket, even now, holds echoes of a man the world hasn't met yet, but already loves. You're walking now through the uneven, vibrant streets of New York City in the early 1970s, your boots clicking on wet pavement and the sky hanging low with that dirty, poetic gray only Manhattan can manage. It smells like roasted peanuts, cab exhaust, and ambition. Robin is right in front of you, older, looser, layered in scarves, and with hair that's starting to curl into a halo of possibility. He's no longer the quiet observer. He's been accepted into Juilliard, and you're shadowing him through some of the most chaotic, exhilarating years of his young life. He doesn't walk, he bounces, like a spring wound too tight. You notice he has a slight hunch even now, like his body is always a second away from folding into another character. In his coat pocket today, a peppermint, a subway token, and a small plastic dinosaur that he found in a cereal box and now refuses to part with. "It's my emotional support T-Rex," he explains, and you believe him. Juilliard is intense. You sit in classes with him, in dusty black box theaters and cold rehearsal rooms that always smell faintly like old coffee and damp canvas. He studies under the legendary John Houseman, a man who could glare holes through brick. One day, Houseman stops Robin mid-monologue and says, "You're not doing Hamlet. You're doing something else, something you." No one knows if that's a compliment, but Robin beams. Even here, among dramatic prodigies and theatrical overachievers, Robin is different. He doesn't brood like the others. He doesn't monologue in mirrors. He riffs. He invents. He turns To Be or Not to Be into an absurd opera about a Danish prince who moonlights as a lounge singer. You can't breathe from laughing. Neither can the other students. Houseman sighs deeply, pinches the bridge of his nose, and lets him continue. When the other students go home to memorize Chekhov, Robin hits the city. You go with him. Improv clubs, jazz bars, the occasional underground poetry reading. His jacket isn't just a jacket anymore. It's a toolbox. In one pocket, a tiny flip notebook filled with jokes he jots down on the fly. In the other, a yo-yo, 3 pens, none of which work, and a fortune cookie slip that reads, "Your energy is contagious. Please use responsibly." He's broke, by the way. Flat broke. He couch surfs, skips meals, sometimes barters impressions for cab rides. He once impersonates a BBC producer to get free tickets to a show. It works. You laugh so hard, you almost forget he's genuinely worried about rent. To survive, he picks up odd gigs. One week, he's a mime in Central Park. You stand beside him as he silently climbs invisible stairs while pigeons heckle him. Another week, he teaches kids improv at a community center. He doesn't just teach them how to be funny, he teaches them how to listen. Comedy, he says, isn't just about timing, it's about giving people permission to laugh. You peek in his jacket one afternoon and find a crumpled script page with doodles in the margins. Aliens, squirrels, a cat wearing a top hat. He calls the cat Reginald. It will later become the seed for a voice he uses in a stand-up bit that nearly gets him a TV gig. Nearly. Biographers debate whether this period was make or break for Robin, whether Juilliard polished him or merely tolerated him. Some say he wasn't suited to classical training. Others claim Houseman secretly admired him but didn't know what to do with him. But you can see it clearly. Juilliard was his cocoon, but not his stage. He needed movement, failure, collision. He needed real people to bounce off, not just monologues and blank walls. And while other students carried backpacks of books and carefully color-coded folders, Robin carried his entire act in his jacket. You catch him one night outside a club, rummaging through his pockets, like a magician stalling for time. Out comes a crumpled cocktail napkin with a new punchline. A kazoo. A paper straw bent into the shape of a giraffe. He holds it up like it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. You laugh. He pockets it. Giraffe goes on stage tomorrow, he says. She's French, très dramatic. He doesn't graduate Juilliard. Technically, he drops out. Not in shame, but in inevitability. There are too many voices in his head now, and too many of them are saying, go. So you do. You both go. From a train station platform, he takes out a napkin and writes, "Thanks, Houseman, for letting me weird all over your curriculum." He folds it, pockets it, keeps it. That jacket now has a tear in the seam from constant use. You help him stitch it one night in a friend's apartment, and as you sew, he improvises a dramatic death monologue from the perspective of a button. You can't stop giggling. Later that week, he auditions for a small TV role. He doesn't get it, but the casting director calls it mesmerizing nonsense. That phrase will haunt and bless him for years. He starts performing more at clubs, squeezing in sets between temp jobs. He bombs. He kills. He learns. One night, his entire set is improvised from what he pulls out of his coat pocket: a broken yo-yo, a banana peel, and a sock. It's absurd, and it's brilliant. The audience gives him a standing ovation. He bows like a confused waiter and slips backstage laughing. And tucked deep in the inside lining of that now-patched coat is something new. A postcard from his mom. It says, "We don't always understand you, but we love you. Keep doing whatever this is." He keeps it close. Sometimes when no one's looking, he reads it before going on stage. Not for luck, for grounding. Because now, the stage isn't a dream anymore. It's a home, and his pockets, they're just the floor plan. The lights are blinding. The studio smells like hot cables, polyester, and takeout noodles eaten too quickly in someone else's dressing room. You step onto the lot with Robin in 1978, and things have shifted. This isn't Juilliard anymore. This isn't even the stand-up grind. This is Mork and Mindy. Primetime television, 3-camera chaos, and Robin's official arrival into the American living room. He looks like he's just rolled out of a kaleidoscope. Rainbow suspenders, sneakers that never match, and a jacket stuffed with mischief. The costume department gives up trying to manage him. He alters things constantly, stitching new bits into pockets, hiding gags up his sleeves, safety pinning notes inside the cuffs. He becomes a walking set piece, a live wire disguised as a sitcom character. You watch him wander the set before filming, mumbling in Martian, adjusting props no one gave him permission to touch. The other actors try to rehearse. Robin rehearses freedom. And what's in his jacket pocket this time? A plastic egg, a toy whistle, and a crumpled card with a single word: Nanu. The director tries to wrangle him. "Stick to the script, Robin." He nods solemnly, then ad-libs an entire scene as Mork falls in love with a donut. Everyone laughs so hard they keep it in the show. The audience eats him up. Kids adore the voice. Adults adore the cleverness. And network executives? They adore the ratings. But no one really knows what to do with him. His energy is uncontainable. He records multiple takes just to satisfy the producers. But the one they always air? The wild one. The last one. The one where he finally lets go. In the dressing room, he empties his coat. You help him count the day's treasures. One kazoo, a tic-tac container filled with googly eyes, a mini etch-a-sketch he used to scribble line cues, a ripped joke cue card with "Ask about Earth toilets" scrawled in red Sharpie. You ask why he carries all this. He shrugs. I never know what I'll need mid-scene. Might be a fart joke. Might be a miracle. At night, he doesn't go home. Not really. He bounces from set parties to comedy clubs to quiet diners where he scribbles ideas on napkins. You ride shotgun in his car, and every time he turns a corner, something falls out of his jacket. Once, it's a puppet. Another time, a stress ball shaped like a brain. His life is speeding up. Fast. Fame is weird. Suddenly, he's on talk shows. Suddenly, he's being asked what it means to be funny. He dodges the questions, slips into characters instead. At one press junket, he answers every question as a different profession. Surgeon, cowboy, 1940s gangster. The journalists stop asking and just start watching. Biographers debate whether this was his peak or just the liftoff. Was Mork his big moment, or was it a trampoline for something better? Critics were unsure. Some said he was a brilliant clown with no anchor. Others said he was a genius who needed stronger writing to shine. But you, walking beside him, watching him light up with every improvised absurdity, you know. He was the writing. He was the moment. He starts recording voice tapes, ideas for characters, sound experiments. You find a cassette in his jacket one day labeled Jazz Squirrel versus Detective Iguana. You don't ask. There's one night after a live taping where he crashes. Hard. You find him sitting on a milk crate backstage, still in full costume. He pulls a tiny notebook from his pocket and reads a line. Does laughter still count if no one sees you cry? Then he smiles, rips it out, folds it small, and tucks it into your hand. That one's yours now. He's starting to feel the weight, the pressure to be on. Everyone expects the explosion, the genius, the bit. They don't want the man. They want the cartoon with a beating heart. And so he gives it, over and over. But late at night, his jacket's contents get heavier. You find more tissues, more little notes, less candy. He still carries toys, though. A wind-up chicken, a squeaky frog. He says they remind him not to take anything too seriously. If I ever start doing Hamlet without a rubber duck in my pocket, he tells you, shoot me. He gets fan mail now. One letter comes from a kid in Kansas who writes, when I feel sad, I pretend I'm from Ork too. Is that okay? Robin replies with a drawing of Mork and the words, of course it's okay. Ork is wherever you need it to be. He carries that drawing in his inside pocket for weeks. You notice he touches it before going on stage. Not for luck, for purpose. And then there's the day he walks out onto the set, pauses mid-step, and laughs to himself. You ask, what's funny? He says, I just remembered. There's a cookie in my pocket I forgot about. He pulls out a very sad oatmeal raisin cookie, crushed, crumbly. He eats it anyway. Still magic, he says through the crumbs. That's the thing about Robin. Even the ruined cookie becomes a bit. Even the forgotten snack is sacred. And in the pocket of that rainbow-suspendered, fame-wrinkled jacket, there's always at least one scribble that no one will ever see. A line that wasn't quite ready, a joke just for him. You never ask to read those. You just let him carry them. You're backstage now at a low-lit comedy club. Brick walls, sticky floors, laughter bouncing off the ceiling like it's had a few drinks too. It's the early 80s and Robin is returning to his roots. The glitz of TV hasn't dulled the grind. If anything, it's made it more urgent. He craves the live stage like oxygen. The smell of nerves, the heat of the lights, the sound of someone's startled guffaw from the back of the room. This is where he feels real. You follow him through the narrow hallway as he ducks behind a velvet curtain, patting down his coat like a magician about to reveal a rabbit, or maybe something much weirder. His jacket tonight? Slightly oversized corduroy again. Old habits die hard. You notice the pockets are bulging more than usual. Before the set, he empties them one by one, laying out a little arsenal on the green room counter, like he's preparing for war. A harmonica, a balloon animal pump, a bent playing card, and folded sticky notes, lots of them, each with barely legible scribbles, like, what if a dolphin ran for mayor? Chewbacca's divorce hearing, oatmeal, the sad breakfast? You laugh. So does he. No one ever said the brain had to be organized. Robin's comedy now is more manic, more unpredictable, more him. He doesn't just perform jokes, he becomes them. You watch him take the stage and instantly become 5 people at once. A grandpa on acid, a French waiter with anger issues, a talking sneaker. It's controlled chaos, a joyful mess. You don't know where he's going, and neither does he. And that's the thrill. And the pockets? Oh, they're part of the act. One bit involves him pretending to be a washed-up magician. He reaches into his coat and pulls out a single sock, a receipt for 1 emergency burrito, and a kazoo he tries, and fails, to play romantically. The audience loses it. After the show, he collapses onto the dressing room couch, sweating, smiling, breathing, like he just ran a marathon through 7 dimensions. You hand him a water bottle and peek into his pocket again. Something new this time, a laminated quote from Groucho Marx. A clown is like an aspirin, only he works twice as fast. He winks, my emergency backup pill. He's doing late-night shows now too, Letterman, Carson, the works. He jokes his way through interviews, but if you watch closely, you can tell he's still surprised anyone cares. He still thinks of himself as the guy carrying rubber noses and scrawled punchlines in his coat, like a walking joke vending machine. And there's another side to these nights. After the lights fade, he sits quietly sometimes, a little more still than usual. You see him take out a slip of paper from his breast pocket. It's an old comedy club napkin, autographed by his hero, Jonathan Winters. He keeps it folded perfectly, wrapped in a sandwich bag to protect it from lint. Biographers still wonder how much of his act was for him and how much was for us. Some say he used the audience as therapy. Others argue he gave more than he took. But here, backstage, sitting beside him as he breathes in the silence after a hurricane set, you see it clearly. He wasn't escaping into the characters. He was rescuing himself through them. He starts writing more down. Notebooks finally replace the scattered napkins. But he still keeps the napkins. He says they're where the real gold is. You flip through one and find a sketch of a man trying to flirt using only balloon animals. A list titled, Things Less Sad Than My Dad's Turtlenecks. A doodle of a duck in a fedora labeled, Detective Quack. He's thinking of turning some into a one-man show. Or maybe an animated series. Or maybe just laughing at them forever. Hard to say with Robin. He's a brainstorm in a trench coat. One night, you find a tiny folded letter in his pocket. It's from a young woman in the audience. I was going to end things tonight. Then you made me laugh so hard I forgot to cry. Thank you. Robin reads it twice, Then once more. He puts it in a zippered inside pocket. You know it'll stay there a long time. He tells you, "That's why I carry all this crap. One day, something stupid like a whoopee cushion will save someone's life." And you believe him. You help him sort through a pile of coat pocket clutter later that week. He refuses to throw any of it away. "These are my backup voices," he says. "I never know when I'll need one." He has a stuffed bear keychain that giggles when you squeeze it, a tiny flashlight shaped like a fish, a used airline napkin with "Smile like your life depends on it" scrawled across it. He's hosting benefits now too. Fundraisers, telethons. He doesn't just tell jokes, he connects. He'll spend 10 minutes making a sick child laugh backstage and then walk out to a sea of donors without missing a beat. The transition is seamless. You watch as he quietly pulls a crayon drawing from his coat. "This one's from Mikey. He says I'm his third favorite clown." Pause. Behind Bozo and his dad. He kills with that line, but he keeps the drawing, puts it back in the pocket, presses it flat with care. And still, every pocket, every scrap, every silly item, it's all part of the same spell. A reminder that laughter, no matter how chaotic, is precise. It knows where to land. And Robin? He's the best pilot you've ever flown with. Even if the plane is made of rubber chickens and banana peel. You're on a movie set now. The California sun flooding the lot. The buzz of a crew that's already 3 coffees deep and 2 jokes behind Robin Williams. It's the late 1980s, and he's no longer that guy from TV. He's a certified movie star, and he's everywhere. One day, he's playing a radio DJ in Vietnam. The next, a manic English teacher shouting poetry from desktops. But behind the scenes, he's still the same coat-stuffing, idea-hoarding, quietly empathetic tornado. The jacket's different now, a bit more grown-up, maybe even a little threadbare at the cuffs. But the pockets? Still chaos, still Robin. Today's inventory? 2 smooth worry stones, 1 jade, 1 glass. A mini notepad covered in looping frantic handwriting. Half a roll of lifesavers, and a Sharpie so dry it's more sculpture than tool. You catch him between takes. He's pacing. Not from nerves, but from sheer kinetic overflow. He flips voices like cards, tells a dad joke to a lighting tech, then does a Scottish dragon monologue for a passing assistant. No one asked for it. Everyone laughs. And yet, the moment the director calls action, he focuses like a laser. It's uncanny. 1 second, jazz hands. The next, pure pathos. You're watching him film Good Morning Vietnam. The lines blur between his character and himself, because that is Robin. Witty, wild, weaponized compassion. Between takes, he sits with headphones, listening to actual armed forces radio tapes. "Gotta know the guys I'm honoring," he says. In his jacket, folded letters from real soldiers, fans who wrote to thank him for making them laugh when they had no reason to. He doesn't read them aloud, he just keeps them close, smoothing the creases gently with his thumb, like a ritual. One of the crew brings their kid to set. Robin spends 20 minutes with the child doing silly voices, teaching how to do the invisible sandwich mime trick. Afterward, the kid beams. "He made my stomach hurt from laughing." Robin grins. That's the goal. Laugh so hard you can skip crunches. Biographers point to this era as his golden stretch, the time when the world saw he could be more than just a clown, that he could crack hearts open, not just make them jump. They argue about which film proved it: Dead Poets Society, Awakenings, The Fisher King. But you see it in the in-between moments, the ones no camera catches, like when he stands near the craft services table, talking softly to a stagehand about grief, or when he hands out little slips of paper with custom jokes to tired crew members. "Here," he says, "emergency laugh rations." You ride with him in a van after a shoot. He pulls out a folded piece of paper from his coat. It's a doodle, a rough sketch of a man standing on a stage with a hole in his chest, laughter pouring out like light. "Drew this last night," he mumbles. Not sure what it means, but it feels right. And then that stillness again. The one that visits him sometimes, even now. Even surrounded by fame and fans and the thrum of it all. He sighs. It's weird, you know? Making people feel so much. When some days, I can't even find the bottom of my own feelings. You nod. You don't need to say anything. You just reach into his coat pocket and hand him a crumpled joke he wrote 2 weeks ago about cows doing stand-up. He laughs like it's brand new. See? That's why I keep stuff. Sometimes the jacket doesn't even come off during lunch. He'll dig through it between bites, pulling out notes and props like he's afraid he'll forget something important if it's not physically touching him. There's a photo in his inside pocket now. His dog. The same goofy mutt that once tackled him mid-interview and made headlines. He shows it to anyone who looks stressed. This is Carl. Carl believes in naps and judgment-free farting. The set photographer snaps a candid of Robin mid-laugh, crumbs on his sweater, sock puppet on one hand. That photo later becomes a crew favorite, taped to the wall of the editing bay with the caption, "In case of emergency, add Robin." But it's not just humor that lives in his pockets. It's empathy. You see it every day. He notices the extras who don't get enough water, the makeup artist who's trying not to cry. He's the first to crack a joke and the last to let someone suffer alone. He's filming Dead Poets Society now, and the air feels heavier, more reverent. The young actors adore him, worship him even, but he doesn't act like a star. He listens, he jokes, he mentors. And in his coat, tucked beside a folded-up schedule and a pencil stub, is a worn-out quote card. No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world. He reads it before every classroom scene, never once out loud. Biographers sometimes debate whether Robin needed the crowd or just wanted to be loved. But that's not quite it. You can feel it. He wanted to give something, a piece of light, a break in the storm, a laugh that felt like rescue. One evening, after a long shoot, you both sit on the hood of a trailer. The sun's melting into the hills. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a Polaroid of his son. "This," he says, "this is why I keep going. And also," he digs deeper, "this jawbreaker I found under the couch might be magic." He pops it into his mouth. You're crouched beside Robin in a dim, quiet moment, just off set from Good Morning Vietnam promotions, and something's shifted. It's subtle, but you feel it. The jokes are still rapid fire, the characters still spill out of him like bubbles from a shaken soda. But between them now, there's a pause, a softness, a deeper breath before the next eruption. This is the beginning of what some people will later call the tender Robin era, and his coat pockets have changed to reflect it. He swapped flashy jackets for something simpler. A light gray zip-up today, the kind that looks lived in, like it's been through late nights and early flights. He reaches into one pocket and pulls out a wrinkled photograph. A dog, floppy ears, tongue mid-flop. "That's Puck," he grins. "He once ate a burrito and then barked at a lamp for 10 minutes. A performance piece, I think." You both laugh. He presses the photo to his chest before tucking it back in like it's part of his heart. You're on set now for Dead Poets Society. The energy's different here, more reverent. Robin feels it too. He's surrounded by younger actors looking at him like a human monument. But he deflects the worship with jokes, with kindness, with small gestures. In between takes, he slips folded notes into the actor's coat pockets. Quotes, jokes, fake demerits. You find one later that reads, "You are the captain now, just don't crash the boat." The coat he wears during those scenes, blazer, corduroy, elbow patches, it becomes iconic. But it's what's underneath that lingers. He's hiding real letters in his real jacket, even while filming. Ones from fans, from veterans, from kids who see him not just as funny, but safe. His eyes get glassy sometimes before a take. You know he's just read one. Biographers circle this period like literary hawks. They wonder, did Robin become his characters, or did he just finally get cast as himself? They argue over whether his performances were therapy or masks. But you, walking beside him, watching him gently press a tissue into the hand of a teary extra, you know. He wasn't acting. He was offering. There's something else new in his pocket. A tiny spiral-bound notebook labeled Things That Matter. Inside, laughter during chemo, Dad's pancakes, lying on the floor with my son, naming the ceiling bumps. One kid in the third row, belly laughing like it's his first time ever. He lets you read it, then asks you to hold it while he goes to shoot a scene. He doesn't ask for it back that day. The film wraps, he gets nominated for an Oscar, he shrugs it off, says he's just happy people liked it. Then, he pulls a folded paper out of his pocket, a drawing of a smiling face with two big ears. It's me, apparently, he grins, according to a 5-year-old in Topeka. He carries it everywhere. You join him at a USO tour not long after. He's wearing a navy jacket with way too many inner pockets. You help him pack it. Stress balls, joke cards, dog tags from fallen soldiers, donated by families not to wear, but to honor, candy, and a harmonica he doesn't really know how to play. He does 10 shows in 3 days. He never repeats a joke. Every base he visits, he finds a different way to say, "You are seen." One night, back at the hotel, he empties his pockets onto the bed, like a kid unpacking from a treasure hunt. "This one," he says, holding up a rubber duck, "got me through a sandstorm in Kuwait. I did a whole routine as the duck, nearly lost my voice. Worth it." You ask him if he ever gets tired. "Not of this," he says, "not of earning the laugh." He's filming Awakenings next, and it's a quieter kind of acting. He's learning to sit with silence, to listen deeply. The coat he wears on set is plainer now, earthy tones, but still, always, the weight of his pocket cargo. A smooth stone engraved with the word stillness. A folded page from a medical textbook. A child's bandage with a smiley face drawn on it. During downtime, he chats with hospital consultants on set, takes notes, gives back. That evening, he performs an impromptu stand-up set for the extras and crew. Just 15 minutes of Robin being Robin, pulling voices and jokes from wherever they live in his mind. You recognize the duck voice. You spot the harmonica again. He slips a hand into his coat during the applause and just holds something. You ask what it is. He doesn't answer. He just smiles. Later, you peek. It's that same Things That Matter notebook. The cover's wearing thin now. Some nights, he confides in you that the world feels heavier, that the more people laugh, the more pressure he feels to stay funny. But then, he reaches into his coat and finds a note. A thank you from a mother whose child got through a tough night in the hospital by watching Robin do voices on late-night TV. That note goes back into his inner pocket, in a spot he calls first class. Biographers miss that part. The way his pockets held more than jokes. They held reasons. At home, he keeps a box filled with old pocket contents, ticket stubs, doodles, mini props. You help him label them one day. "If I die," he jokes, "don't let anyone think this was trash." You assure him it won't be. "Good," he nods, "because somewhere in here is a folded fart joke that's practically art." And as he curls up on a couch that smells like old books and coffee, you catch a glimpse of what's in his coat that night. A photo of Puck, a tiny folded airplane made from a rejection letter. A joke that simply says, "2 muffins in an oven. Is it hot in here?" Ah, a talking muffin. It's silly. It's perfect. It's him. And tucked just behind it all, quietly nestled near the lining of the heart side, is a note that reads, "Just keep going. Someone out there needs what's in your pocket." You're in a padded recording booth now, the walls spongy and soft, lit like the inside of a cave. Robin walks in, holding a large coffee and a bundle of what looks like chaos: papers, sketches, napkins with doodles, and something that squeaks when he sets it down. You don't know it yet, but this little room, quiet, windowless, and echo-free, is about to become one of the loudest places in animation history. This is Aladdin, and Robin Williams is about to become the genie. He doesn't warm up like other voice actors. He combusts. You sit in the corner, headphones on, watching him slip behind the mic like a sorcerer stepping into a portal. The script is there, sure, but he doesn't just read lines. He detonates them, twists them, expands them until the entire booth feels like it's inhabited by 1,000 people, and every one of them is him. Between takes, he rifles through his hoodie pocket. Yes, hoodie, because Robin says studios are too cold and jackets rustle in the mic. Today's hoodie haul: a blue crayon labeled Genie Trials, a duck whistle that makes exactly the wrong noise, an energy bar that's more dust than food, and 5 napkins covered in faces, goofy, manic, wild-eyed faces he might use for new character voices. He picks up one napkin, holds it to the light, and says, "This one's got promise. Looks like a Shakespeare professor who teaches jazzercise on weekends." You laugh. So does the engineer. So does the director. Everyone's laughing before the take even starts. And that laughter, it ends up in the performance. You can hear the smile behind the words. What no one really expects is how much Robin adds. The genie role, originally small, swells with every session. They let him go off script more and more because, frankly, the script can't keep up. One day he walks in with a shoebox filled with plastic figurines. Today, he grins, Genie's doing impressions. You help him sort them. A Barbie with sunglasses, a broken Stretch Armstrong, a rubber Godzilla, and a G.I. Joe missing an arm, which Robin dubs Private Why Me. He voices each one, rapid fire, all different accents, all brilliant. The team keeps nearly everything. Animators later admit they had to animate to him, not the other way around. He made the genie move before we ever drew him. You watch some of the early sketches, the expressions feel alive. It's because Robin made them that way, with his pockets full of chaos and love and nonsense and light. One day, he brings in a baggie. Inside is a single feather, blue, soft, curled slightly at the end. "This," he says, holding it like a secret, "is from the hat I wore during my first ever stand-up show. I keep it for flight, just in case I forget how." He doesn't say much else, just tucks it back into his hoodie. You notice it lives in the same place every time. Left inner pocket, over the heart. He's also keeping little fan letters now, sent by early Disney insiders. One kid writes, "I don't know what the genie is yet, but I hope he sounds like you." Robin beams. Mission accepted. He records for hours without tiring. The engineers rotate out. Robin stays. His voice cracks, but his energy never does. During breaks, he scribbles new ideas on index cards. Some end up in the film, some don't. All of them end up in his hoodie pocket. There's a running joke that they should have cast his jacket as a character. Every time he reaches in, something comes out. A pun, a squeaky toy, a fake mustache. Once a harmonica falls out mid-recording. He just picks it up and launches into a Genie Blues number. Everyone claps. None of it was in the script. All of it ends up animated. Biographers love this moment. They call Aladdin a turning point, a cultural touchstone that changed how animation used celebrity voices. But you know it was more than that. It was Robin finally being let loose in a world where physics, rules, and logic couldn't slow him down. The genie? That was Robin. He didn't play him, he poured into him. Every voice, every sparkle, every surreal twist, it came from the same place as those coat pockets. That eternal fountain of joy meets chaos. After recording one especially wild scene, he slumps in the chair, totally spent, sweat glistening, hoodie askew. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a mint. For stamina, he grins. Then, more softly, also because I yelled so hard I might have scared the air molecules. You help him gather the day's clutter. Doodles, note cards, a squishy toy that once lived in a Happy Meal. He looks at it and murmurs, Genie would have loved this. Disney offers him more money, more control. He refuses most of it. Let the magic be magic, he says. Don't overprice the spark. But he keeps everything from the sessions. The original Genie sketches, the blue feather, even a broken mic cover someone threw out. It made me sound fuzzy, like a cuddly dictator. You ride in the car with him later that week. He's quiet, reflective. He reaches into his hoodie and pulls out a folded napkin. A joke he wrote on day one. What if the lamp is just a really ambitious teapot? He smiles at it like it's an old friend. And you realize the genie didn't come from a lamp. He came from a man who never stopped carrying magic in his pocket. You walk beside Robin now, through the halls of a real children's hospital, not a set. He's wearing a white doctor's coat this time, not for a role, not for a costume fitting, but because he asked to borrow one. He wanted to blend in, sort of. Though let's be honest, a man carrying a horn, a clown nose, and a kazoo in his inside pocket doesn't exactly go unnoticed. It's the mid-1990s, and Robin is deep into Patch Adams. Not just filming it, becoming it. The real Dr. Hunter Patch Adams is a larger-than-life figure who believes that laughter, love, and dignity are just as powerful as medicine. Robin connects with that on a soul level. He's not just acting anymore. He's studying joy like it's biology. On set, he wears a long white coat, and like everything else he puts on, it quickly becomes more than fabric. It's a storage unit, a mobile prop closet, a hug in cotton form. You peek inside, the first day of shooting, and find 4 clown noses, a small jar of glitter labeled emergency fairy dust, a balloon twisted into a sword, and a list titled Funny Ways to Say Diarrhea. He hands that list to a makeup artist before filming. Here, he winks, for when the world feels gross. The hospital scenes are intense. Some days, he's sobbing between takes. Other days, he's dancing through them. He uses his pockets like therapy. When words fail, he digs deep, literally, and finds a joke to hold on to. One little girl on set, battling leukemia, clutches his hand during a break. "Are you a real doctor?" she asks. Robin leans close and whispers, "No, but I do make house calls. For tickles." She giggles. He gives her his clown nose. It's a prescription. Use as needed. Later that night, he quietly places her thank you drawing into the coat's inside pocket, over his heart. You don't see him take it out again, but you know it stays there for a long, long time. Offset, he visits actual hospitals. No cameras, no press, just him and his coat. By now, he's added a few regulars to his pocket crew. A laminated sheet of knock-knock jokes, a wind-up hopping frog, small origami hearts made by sick kids during filming. You help him sort through them in the hotel one night. "This one," he says, holding up a yellow heart, "came with the note, for when you feel like a peeled banana." He reads it again, quietly. That's how some days feel, huh? He folds it carefully, returns it to the pocket, doesn't speak for a while. Biographers like to say Patch Adams was a return to form, a callback to his earlier comedy with a message. But you know it wasn't a callback, it was a progression. Robin had always been funny, but this was him learning to be funny on purpose, with precision, for healing, for others. He starts carrying more handwritten jokes, not for himself, for the kids. His coat is practically bursting with them. One day you do an inventory and find a finger puppet of a pirate dog. A joke that reads, "What do you call a fish with no eyes?" FSH. A photo of him at age 5, wide-eyed and holding a balloon. I carry that last one, he explains, to remind myself of who I'm cheering up. There's a moment one afternoon when the film crew takes a break and Robin wanders into the break room where a child and his mom are waiting between treatments. The room is quiet, tense. The mom looks like she hasn't slept in days. Robin walks over, pulls out 2 clown noses from his pocket, hands one to the boy, and places the other on his own face. Emergency procedure, he says. I'm afraid your giggle levels are dangerously low. The boy smiles. The mom actually laughs. He leaves them with a folded piece of paper. You peek later. It's a drawing of a T-Rex on a toilet labeled Dinosaur. Classic Robin. At the film's wrap party, the entire crew signs a giant card. Robin doesn't say much, but he hands out balloon animals and stickers that say, Certified Laugh Technician. You get one. So does the director. So does the janitor. The white coat he wore in the film, he keeps it, hangs it beside his other jackets, fills it with letters, photos, drawings. It becomes part of the rotation. Some nights he slips it on and just stands in his living room, running his hands over the pockets, pulling things out and smiling like each item is a living memory. You sit beside him one night while he watches a rough cut of the film. He doesn't laugh much, doesn't cry either. Just leans into the screen like he's trying to understand what he gave away and what he got in return. In his pocket that night, a scribbled note. If love were medicine, laughter is the spoon. A yo-yo, and the same feather from before, now tucked into a small homemade pouch labeled, Don't Forget. He doesn't say what he's not supposed to forget, but you already know. It's the kids, the laughter, the weight of a folded joke in a pocket, the hope that even one of them smiled because he showed up. You don't have to ask. He keeps showing up. You're trailing Robin now through the velvet-lined chaos of an awards show after-party. Oscars, maybe. Or Emmys. Doesn't matter. The room sparkles with champagne and industry chatter, but Robin glides through it like a gust of wind wearing a tuxedo. He's hugging everyone, telling jokes in rapid succession, shifting accents every few sentences. To the public, he's on. A legend. Untouchable. But you see the man slipping little notes to waitstaff, cracking jokes just loud enough to cheer someone who looks left out. His tux jacket is crisp, tailored, but still unmistakably his. You feel it in the bulge of his inside pocket, the unevenness of the seams, the familiar flutter of folded napkin corners sticking out when he reaches for a handshake. He hasn't changed. He's just dressed fancier. Tonight's haul inside the black silk lining. A quote scribbled on the back of a name card. Everyone's important, especially the quiet ones. A smiley face sticker he peeled from a hotel mint. A small notebook filled with audience reactions from recent charity shows. Lady in row 3. Gasped, then snorted. Personal best. He doesn't keep those notes for vanity. He keeps them to learn. Every laugh is a lesson, he tells you over hors d'oeuvres, and every silence is a reminder. You watch him disappear into the crowd, then reappear 5 feet away doing a bit with a shrimp cocktail. 2 executives burst into laughter. A waiter chuckles behind a curtain. Robin looks satisfied. What the cameras don't catch, he spends most of the night finding the people who didn't win anything, the overlooked, the nominees who quietly lost. He shakes their hands a little longer, looks them in the eye, tells them, hey, your work made me cry, and I don't cry unless a Pixar dog dies. Backstage at these events, he's even more himself. Between segments, he digs into his coat pocket and pulls out a palm-sized flipbook, hand-drawn stick figures doing ballet, kung fu, synchronized sneezing. He flips it for the makeup artist. In case you needed a short film between lip touch-ups. She nearly cries from laughter. He's invited to dozens of fundraisers, red carpet galas, and celebrity roasts, and each time, he brings something from his pocket. Sometimes it's a tiny puzzle piece, to remind us we're part of something. Other times it's a joke printed on a teabag hag. Life's steep, sip slowly. At a charity auction, he pulls a joke out of his coat to warm up the crowd. What do you call a cow that does stand-up? A laughing stock. They groan. They bid higher anyway. He doesn't keep any of the auction items for himself, but he does take a single cocktail napkin from each event. He folds them neatly, labels them with the date, and tucks them into an expanding file back home labeled, "People Were Kind Tonight." Biographers often debate the duality of this time in Robin's life. Was he overcompensating, burning too bright to outrun something inside? Maybe. But you walk with him to the valet later that evening, and you watch him reach into his coat and hand a valet worker a little sealed envelope. "Don't open it till your break," he whispers. The guy nods, confused. Later, you find out what it said. "You're doing great. This whole night would collapse without you. Also, tell no one, but you parked my car better than God." Classic Robin. One day, during a charity event for the homeless, he performs a free outdoor set in the rain. You both huddle under a tarp backstage. His coat is soaked, but his spirits are high. In his pocket that day, a laminated card of emergency puns, a clothespin with googly eyes, a letter from a shelter director thanking him for not treating the guests like statistics. After the show, he shakes hands with every single person in the front row. He gives a balloon sword to a kid who'd been crying earlier. Then, as you're leaving, he finds a small leaf in his coat pocket. You ask where it came from. "Might have fallen in at the park," he shrugs. Then he adds, "Or maybe the tree needed someone to carry it." Back home, the coat goes on a hook, but the pockets never get emptied. You peek in days later and find the googly-eyed clothespin clipped to a note. "Remind me I'm more than applause." That one stays there for weeks. There's a running theory among his friends that Robin needed these items not just as gags or props, but as anchors. Tiny truths to carry with him when the air got too thin or the crowds too loud. Each item wasn't random, it was intentional joy. Pocketed proof that the world was ridiculous and wonderful and worth holding close. And even when he's not at parties or fundraisers, the coat's still part of his day. At the grocery store, he'll pull out a sticker and place it on a cereal box. "Buy this and your milk will turn to glitter." At a friend's birthday, he wraps the gift in a napkin and tapes a joke to the outside. Warning, may cause sudden bursts of gratitude. And he means it. He's still writing jokes every day. Some make it to stage. Some get scribbled and tucked away, crumpled into corners of his coat like loose change made of light. One day, while helping him clean out his closet, you find a folded paper in the inner pocket of his oldest black jacket, the one he wore to his first Oscars. You unfold it carefully. It says in shaky pen, "One person laughed. That's enough. Always was." And you just stop. Because in the middle of the glamour, the lights, the awards, and the madness, Robin still measured his success by something tiny, intimate, pure, like a giggle tucked into a tuxedo pocket. It's quiet today. You're backstage with Robin at a small benefit performance in San Francisco. No cameras, no big banners, just a black stool, a mic, and a crowd that doesn't know they're about to cry from laughter. He's sitting alone in the green room, looking at his reflection in the dusty mirror. Not posing, not prepping, just looking. His face isn't sad, but it's not performing either. It's the rarest thing in his world, still. He adjusts the collar of his old tweed blazer, the one that fits just a little loose in the shoulders now. It's lived a life, and so have its pockets. Today, they're full, but not with the usual plastic toys and prank shop leftovers. There's something quieter in there, something tender. You glance down as he pulls things out, one by one, like he's checking inventory before a trip into deep space. A folded card that says, "You're doing better than you think." A worn pebble, polished smooth, the word "breathe" etched faintly on one side. A single orange Tic Tac. And a fortune cookie slip. Sometimes the audience is just you. He looks at you and smiles. "This one," he says, holding up the Tic Tac, "is for ritual. I always start with one. Cleans the mouth, starts the rhythm." He pauses. Also, it's the only thing I trust to survive in there. Candy of the apocalypse. The room buzzes outside, murmurs, footsteps, mic checks. But inside, it's like the eye of a hurricane. And in that hush, Robin reaches into the inner lining of his coat and pulls out a scrap of paper, folded so many times it feels like cloth. He reads it silently, doesn't share it this time, just nods to himself, folds it again, and presses it against his chest before tucking it back in. You don't need to know what it says. It wasn't meant for you. Tonight's set is different, less explosive, more melodic. He tells stories, real ones, about love, about aging, about his dog getting stuck in a beanbag chair. He slips into characters like always, but returns to himself faster, more often. Like he doesn't want to hide too long. And when he forgets a line, he reaches into his pocket, pulls out a folded joke and reads it aloud. I had a plan once, then I tripped over my sock and the plan ran off with a pizza guy. The audience roars, but the laughter feels gentler, like they're laughing with him, not at the characters. Backstage after the show, he sits quietly, sipping tea. His pockets are emptier now. He gave a pebble to a crew member having a panic attack. He gave the tic-tac to a nervous opener, saying, "It's stage magic, just trust me." He gave a quote, "You are enough, even on mute," to a volunteer who'd been crying in the hallway. Biographers often try to capture these moments as evidence. Evidence of struggle, of decline. But you know better. This isn't falling. This is feeling. Robin's always had a pocket full of joy. But now, he's started carrying sadness too. Not to hide it, to understand it. One day, in a hotel room, you help him unpack. He pulls out a zippered pouch from his suitcase, stitched from old denim, patched at the corners. Inside, a small collection labeled, "For when I need to believe it again." You peek. A child's drawing of a dragon wearing a suit. A letter from a widow who said his movie made her laugh for the first time in a year. A note from his daughter that reads, "Dad, remember, you're the flashlight, not the dark." He doesn't look at these every day, but he carries them. That's the difference. He tells you one evening, "I think I made a home out of pockets. Places to store the feelings I didn't have room for anywhere else." You ask if it helps. "Not always," he says, "but it reminds me I'm not empty." There's a recurring dream he shares with you during a long drive. "I'm at a party. Everyone's in costume. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. I reach into my coat and pull out nothing, just lining. And I panic." He glances over. "Weirdest thing is, I never speak in the dream. Not once." He chuckles. Maybe that's the real horror. Me, silent. But even in silence, he's still him. You see it in the way he holds space for people. The way he hands someone a crumpled joke with the same reverence another man might offer a ring. He's never stopped giving, even on the days when he forgets to take. One morning, you find him journaling on the porch, fog curling around the railings. He's writing slowly, thoughtfully. You glance over. The page reads, "Today, I am sad. That's okay. I will carry it with care. Not like a burden, like a friend who's just a little too heavy for their own shoes." He tears the page out, folds it, and puts it in his coat. You ask, "Another pocket poem?" He shrugs. More like a reminder that the show doesn't always need applause. Sometimes, it just needs honesty. There's a growing quiet between performances now, a slowing down. He spends more time walking trails near his home, more time by the water. His coat changes again, thicker, warmer, lined for long strolls and chilly mornings. You check the pockets one day and find a leaf pressed between two index cards, a bus token from Chicago, a quote, "The heart doesn't wear out, it just changes tempo." You're walking slower with him now, through soft sunlight on a cool California afternoon, where the breeze feels kind enough to stay quiet. Robin's footsteps are gentler these days. He's traded the leather boots and bouncing sneakers for easy slip-ons and softer soles. He still carries a coat, sometimes a vest, sometimes a light jacket, but you sense it's not about fashion anymore. It's armor. Familiar. Memory-laden. Something that reminds him of who he's always been, even as everything starts to shift. His pockets carry less now, but more meaning. You're in his house with him, tucked away from the world. He moves like a man who's learned to pace himself. The world doesn't demand constant noise anymore. But inside, the characters are still whispering. He listens. Sometimes he answers. Sometimes he just smiles and lets them talk. You sit beside him in the kitchen while he makes tea. He sets down his coat on the back of the chair. It flutters open a little, revealing a peek inside. You see a Polaroid of his kids when they were little, one with yogurt on their nose. A folded crossword puzzle with half the clues rewritten as puns. A quote in smudged ink. You can be quiet and still be full of light. He notices you looking. "I don't carry toys much anymore," he says. "But I carry reminders. Things that tug me back when I start drifting." You watch him sit, tea in hand, the jacket gently folding around his shape like a soft echo. His eyes are bright, but there's a new kind of tired in them. Not defeat, just depth. He opens a small box on the table. It's filled with old pocket contents. A guitar pick from a night he played 3 chords and sang like a muppet. A fortune cookie message that says, "You're someone's best story." A pin that reads, "Hello, I'm still here." He looks at it for a long moment. "Sometimes," he whispers, "I'm not sure where the character ends and I begin, but when I'm with my family, it's just me, and that's enough." Biographers often skip this chapter. It doesn't sell as loudly. It's not scandal, not sparkle. Just a man spending time with people he loves, wearing worn clothes and telling quiet stories. But this part? This is the most honest version of him you've ever seen. He takes walks more often now, through gardens, by the bay, always with that same coat. You walk with him one morning, and he stops to tie his shoe. "Do you ever think about how trees don't have to explain themselves?" he asks. "They just are. I'd like to be a tree for a while." You chuckle. "Which kind?" "Willow, the dramatic one," he laughs, crying and dancing at the same time. The pockets today carry a small sketch of a son with a mustache, a ribbon from a child's birthday party he crashed with balloon animals, a postcard he never sent, addressed to someone who once said he'd never make it. He stares at that postcard sometimes, not with bitterness, just contemplation. "I was angry once," he says. "Now I'm just grateful they were wrong." You ask if he's ever thought about doing less, fewer appearances, fewer shows. He shrugs. "I've thought about it, but then I get a letter from a nurse who played a clip of me for a dying patient, and he laughed. That's worth another show." Sometimes he calls you late at night just to read a joke he wrote. Other times, he asks if he can leave a message for no reason. You listen to one later. It's just him doing an impression of a confused penguin in a hardware store. "I don't know why," he says the next morning, "but it helped me sleep." And then, one evening on his porch, he pulls something new from his jacket. A feather. You blink. It's not the blue one from Aladdin, not the old one from his stand-up beginnings. This one's white, fluffy, almost glowing in the dusky light. He looks at it, quiet. "This one's for forgiveness," he says finally. "Forgiving myself mostly, for not being everything to everyone, for not always laughing when I'm expected to." You sit together, saying nothing. And then, softly, he adds, "Do you think pockets can hold love?" You don't answer, because you know they do. You've seen it in every note, every drawing, every joke written in the margins of something much heavier. You've watched him give pieces of himself away, one folded smile at a time. His pockets now are quieter, but richer. The toys may be gone, but the purpose remains. He still writes jokes. You find one later in a tiny folded triangle tucked beside his glasses case. Old age, when your back goes out more than you do. He reads it on stage at a local benefit, gets a full belly laugh from a woman in the front row. He bows, taps his coat pocket, smiles. After the show, a child hands him a sticker. "It's for being brave," the kid says. He doesn't stick it to his coat. He folds it carefully and tucks it into the pocket over his heart. You're moving through the house with him now, more like a shadow than a companion, gently, respectfully, as the world around Robin seems to slow, not pause, not end, just soften. There are more windows open these days, more birdsong, more time spent standing still in doorways, holding a cup of coffee that's gone lukewarm while he stares out into the trees. It's the late 2000s. His calendar is still full, projects, voice work, interviews, but the spaces between those appointments are growing wider and heavier. You notice the coat he wears now isn't quite the same as before. It's older, worn in a way that speaks of ritual, not fashion. The elbows are shiny. The fabric near the collar is thinning, but he doesn't replace it. He just patches the lining when it starts to fray. Inside the coat, a folded, faded note that says, "You're not broken, you're complex." A pressed flower from a sidewalk walk with his daughter. A movie stub from a small indie film he saw alone. A piece of paper towel with a joke written in purple pen. Therapist equals the rapist? Who let Freud do the branding? He chuckles when he finds it. "I don't remember writing that," he admits, "but it sounds like something I'd say at 2 a.m. in a hotel bathroom." He's not as fast anymore, not in movement, not in recovery. But he still lights up. When he laughs, really laughs, it's just as seismic as ever. You see it when he walks onto a small theater stage unannounced to support a struggling friend. You see it when he makes a dog at the park do tricks for treats, then voices the dog as if it's giving a TED Talk. You sit beside him one morning while he's sorting through an old stack of pocket items. "It's funny," he murmurs. "I used to collect things because I might need them on stage. Now I collect things just to remember that I was ever there." He lays a few items on the table. A Lego head, a napkin with lipstick on it. No name, no explanation. A quote, "You brought light, even on days when your own switch didn't flip." There's a certain ache now. Not sadness exactly, not yet, but a tremble in the edges. Some days he seems to forget a line in the middle of a story. Other days he repeats the same joke twice and it hits him only after the fact. "My brain's doing jazz improv now," he jokes. Except the saxophone's missing a few keys. Biographers would later try to place this moment, pin it to a diagnosis, draw a neat little circle around it. But you can't reduce real life that way. What you see is a man adjusting, a man trying to stay curious, even when his own mind feels like shifting sand. One night, after dinner, you find him on the floor with his old coat spread out like a map. He's reorganizing, sorting pockets like drawers. He lets you help. From the inside breast pocket he pulls a to-do list from 2 years ago. Every item crossed out, except "Call Dad." A gum wrapper folded into a tiny crane. A one-word note, "Stay." He stares at that last one for a long time. He doesn't speak. Instead, he reaches into the coat again, and out comes a letter he's written but never sent. You recognize the handwriting immediately. Big, loopy, a little wobbly now. The envelope is addressed but unsealed. You ask if it's okay to read. He nods. The letter is to himself. It says, "You've given the world so much joy. If you can't feel it bouncing back right now, that's okay. Trust that it's still out there, rippling. You don't have to carry it all. You never did. Just be here. That's enough. He folds it back up, slips it into the pocket over his heart. That one, he says softly, is for the days I forget. You walk with him to the mailbox the next morning. He doesn't mail anything, just stands there for a while, holding the box door open like he's waiting for someone to answer. Then he closes it gently. Maybe later. There's a coat hook near the front door. It holds only one item now, his oldest, most frayed jacket, the one from the Good Morning Vietnam set. You notice it's been recently mended around the seams, hand-stitched, probably by him. Inside one pocket, a photo of his family at the beach. A button that doesn't match anything he owns. A scrap of fabric with the words, "Even the clown needs applause sometimes." He doesn't wear that jacket out much anymore, but he touches it, a lot, like a talisman, a totem of the life he lived, louder than most people ever dream of. And in quieter moments, when he seems far away, you'll catch him reaching into a pocket, not to pull anything out, just to feel what's in there, to know it's still full, that he's still full, still here, still Robin.
You're not sure if it's morning or evening anymore. The light in the house is soft and gentle, like someone dimmed the entire sky out of kindness. You walk slower now. You speak more quietly, not because Robin asked you to, but because it feels right. The pace of the world around him is changed, not stopped, just hushed. His coat is draped over the back of his favorite armchair, the fabric slouched like it remembers every shoulder it ever sat on. You sit across from it, waiting, as he steps in from the hallway, slippers, cardigan, no rush. His hair is a little thinner, his eyes still bright, but tired in a way you can't quite describe. "Do you want to go through it today?" he asks. You nod. Of course you do. The coat is more than a coat now. It's a museum, a memory chest, a scrapbook with sleeves. You both treat it like an old friend who deserves careful handling. Together, you start emptying it one pocket at a time, tenderly, like dusting off relics. Left pocket first, a broken watch that still ticks if you tap it twice. A photo booth strip from the 80s, him making 4 different faces in 4 frames. Joy, confusion, sneaky grin, wide-mouthed scream. A candy wrapper folded into a tiny accordion. And a quote, "Laughter is time skipping a beat so your heart can catch up." You don't ask when he wrote that. You just know it's been there a long time. Right pocket, a smooth stone with a tiny heart carved into one side. A sticker that says, "I made someone smile today." A handwritten note, shakier than the others. Not every joke lands, but you still showed up. That matters. He smiles at that one. That was for me, a long time ago. You find an old prop mustache next. The sticky part is long gone. It smells faintly of old makeup and rubber. He holds it up under his nose. "Still works," he says in a French accent. You both laugh, and then, very gently, he pulls from the inside, lining a small plastic bag. Inside it, a feather. A joke scribbled on a child's placemat. Why did the robot go to school? To improve its bite. And a miniature folded letter, labeled simply, "From me." He doesn't open it, just holds it in his palm. You're standing at the threshold now, not of a stage or a studio, but something quieter, softer. Robin's not performing anymore, not publicly at least. The world outside spins on, loud and distracted. But inside his home, it's like time has slowed to a lullaby. You sit with him on the back porch, wrapped in sweaters, the sun low and amber. His coat, yes, that coat, is draped over his shoulders like a memory. He doesn't carry as much in it anymore, at least not physically, but you know it's still full. He reaches into the pocket slowly, like it's muscle memory, like the pocket itself is part of his rhythm. From it, he pulls a folded grocery list with the words milk, eggs, courage. A cartoon he clipped and kept because it made him laugh on a hard day. A feather, the white one. And a hand-drawn coupon from his son, one hug redeemable any time. His hands are gentler now. They tremble a bit, but he holds each item with the care of a curator handling ancient treasures. He's not sad. He's reflective. I used to think the best thing I ever gave was the laugh, he says quietly. But now I think maybe it was the pause after. You nod. You understand. He tells you stories, even now, about the time he tripped on stage and turned it into a 20-minute improv about shoes having trust issues. About the nurse who wrote to say his genie voice helped her autistic son speak for the first time. About the man in Ohio who mailed him a single shoe with a note, "You helped me find the other one." He chuckles. I hope he did. You don't speak much. Just listen. Just be. That's all he ever really asked from the people closest to him. Not applause, not validation, just presence. In his final days, the jacket hangs nearby, sometimes draped over a chair, sometimes folded at the foot of the bed. He still tucks notes into it, little jokes, small thoughts. One day you see him slip something in, glance at you and smile. You don't ask what it was, but later when you check, you find a tiny sticky note. It says, "If this coat is ever found, know that it lived, know that it loved." And maybe that's the thing biographers will never capture. That the coat wasn't just fabric and buttons and thread. It was a mirror of a life that refused to stop giving. It was a vault for punchlines and poems and pauses so filled with feeling they vibrated. You walk the house one last time, through the hallway of framed photos, through the kitchen still holding the echo of late-night tea, past the front closet where a row of jackets rests in peace and in color, each one worn, each one remembered. And there, hooked gently on a nail near the door, is the last jacket. It's simple, soft gray, light enough to forget you're wearing it. Stitched along the inside hem is a single line of embroidery. It reads, "There's joy in the pocket. Take some, leave some." You slip your hand inside the left pocket. There's nothing there, except
The breeze picks up softly now, ruffling the edges of the coat as if even the wind knows not to be too loud. The world around you slows, light dimming to a soft gold, air thick with the hush of early evening. Robin's story doesn't end, it just gently folds in on itself, like a note tucked into a worn pocket for safekeeping. You picture that coat now, empty of objects, full of meaning. Maybe it hangs somewhere quiet, maybe it's still traveling. Maybe it's sitting on the shoulders of someone else who needs to remember that laughter can carry you when your legs no longer want to. And if you listen closely, really closely, you might hear something. Not a voice, not a joke, just a sound. Like the rustle of paper, the soft puff of a pocket opening, the whisper of a man who never stopped making space for joy. You smile, because even now, you're still carrying pieces of him. A laugh he gave you. A joke that arrives when you need it most, a warmth that doesn't fade. So rest easy tonight. The world is a little lighter than it was because someone once thought to leave a feather in his coat and a reason in every fold. Good night, friend.